One of my favorite topics is that of risk, because whether somebody is looking at the results of his 401k plan or career, whatever, you look back on the assumptions that you made about the future 5 years ago, and then you look at how well the world turned out today, and I can pretty much guarantee you that there's something that's different. Sometimes the things that happened are better, sometimes they're worse. And the difference between what you expected to have happen and what happened is what risk is all about. Some people have a high risk tolerance and others have a low risk tolerance. People who would naturally gravitate toward a salaried position probably have a lower risk tolerance than someone who's prepared to work on commission, who realizes that some months they might make a lot of money and some months they may not make much money at all, but they're willing to live with the consequences of that. The same thing is true in selecting a mortgage. Some mortgages are more risky than others, and some are not. Some basically take all the risk out of it. The thing that's important for you is to realize the type of person you are, to determine your own tolerance for risk, and then make sure that you choose a mortgage that's consistent with that risk tolerance. One of the risky things that can happen with a mortgage is that it gets to the end of a period where it's been fixed. Maybe that's only 2 years, as was common with many of the subprime loans, and then makes a huge jump where people were sitting there looking at a $1,000 payment that all of a sudden jumps to a $2,000 payment that they couldn't afford. That is risk. So it's important when you're selecting a loan that you choose a loan that, even if it were to make an adjustment at some time in the future when you still own your home, it's one that has some limits on how much it could move, and that you could still say, well, my interest rate went up, but I can still afford to make that payment. One of the most interesting aspects of risk that's occurred in the last 7 or 8 years is the assumption that homes are always going to go up in value. In fact, many of the people who bought homes during this explosion of the subprime loan phenomenon found out that they not only couldn't afford the loan when it made its adjustment, they found that their home went down in value, and now they can't even sell it for enough money to be able to sell the loan, and they obviously looking at foreclosure. So it's really important when you're looking at something like this to say, not to necessarily look at the worst case scenario, but to look at a reasonable bunch of assumptions about what's liable to happen in your area. There are areas of the country where, even though values may be crashing in some areas, there are others that are very stable, in fact, actually increasing in value. And there are others, many others in the country, particularly in the Midwest, the lower Midwest, across the central part of the country, where values are very, very stable. They didn't experience the great rises that happened in California and Las Vegas and Florida, but neither have they suffered the declines.